Fitness in evolutionary terms means having genes or characteristics that will help you survive and pass on your own genes onto the next generation and onto your own offspring. The ways that crickets benefit, or the way that they are fit themselves in this way, would be with their chirping particularly, so that they can attract mates and then produce offspring and pass on their genes onto their offspring. Calling can be either good or bad for crickets, and calling is when they rub their wings together to call a mate. It can be good because it'll attract the mates, which will help them produce this offspring that will help them pass on their genes. On the other hand, it could also be detrimental to their passing of the genes because it can just get them killed, as it did in the story, because the animal or the whatever predator heard the cricket chirping, was able to hear it and find it and eat it. So that would be one example of 3 where a cricket was eliminated from being able to mate. That was the first one. Another one would also be when one of the crickets was intercepted by another cricket, so that even though it was a cricket that was calling loudest to the female cricket in order to mate, another cricket intervened, and then that cricket no longer had a mate because it was taken from him. So he didn't have a chance to mate. He was not killed, but he was not able to pass on his genes, which should make him thereby unfit evolutionary. So he was eliminated, and then there was one last cricket that did get killed as well. He was killed by the person narrating or explaining what natural selection was, and he stepped on him, so obviously he couldn't pass on his genes either. He was killed. And in this situation, I think either stabilizing or directional would be the answer. So it could be stabilizing because it would be eliminating both extremes. In this case, the extreme of not chirping quite as much would be that they don't get to mate, and chirping too much would be that they would be able to be found by predators and not just fellow crickets. So neither would be able to produce offspring because one would get killed and the other one would not meet another mate to reproduce with. However, directional might also be one because they generally will probably not get eaten. It's probably not quite as common, so chirping louder would definitely help the crickets produce more, which in this case it would favor the crickets that chirp loudest. But like the comic strip said, just because you are the fittest or chirp the loudest or the strongest doesn't exactly mean that you are most likely, or that you're going to be for sure the kind of offspring or the kind of, you're going to have the kind of features that will pass on your own characteristics and be most fit evolutionary. And in which ways did the environment influence the practice of calling? Well, if there was no calling occurring, then there wouldn't be any mating, because 2 different genders would not be able to find each other in order to reproduce, and thereby calling would have been necessary in order to actually reproduce. So the environment, in the way that the 2 genders are split up because of the environment, because they are spread out, they need to be found, and the environment does influence this. However, the environment having predators, it also influences maybe not doing it quite as loud, or it just influences it in that crickets may be at risk of being found and killed by predators in the process of trying to find another mate. So the environment would have an effect in that it would both increase the necessity to chirp, or it would also inhibit it.